Hey, what's up everybody? This is Brick501 and today I want to go over some new information that we have gotten about the endgame of Godfall. And I've been super excited about this game. One of the only things they haven't talked about is what is going to be in the endgame. And they have said that they will have a robust endgame that will keep players that like to go for the best builds and gear playing for a long time and actually having something to use that gear and builds on. And what they have talked about has me incredibly excited for the endgame of this game. So I want to go over that, and I also wanted to go over some of the other information they gave about some of the gearing and customization in the game. The first layer is weapons. There are over 120 unique weapons in Godfall across the 5 weapon classes. So that means there's 5 weapon classes. Those are going to be just the different weapons. So one's going to be like swords, one's going to be a big 2-handed mace, stuff like that. The unique weapons are just the different specific weapons you can get. And he mentioned in a recent live stream that all of the weapons you come across are going to have lore and a specific name attached to them. So all the weapons are going to be pretty much unique and you have to go and get them a specific way. Every weapon has a primary trait that is completely unique to it. So every different weapon, all 120 have their own primary trait, along with secondary traits that are rolled from a pool of shared traits. Players can equip up to 2 weapons in their loadout. So that means that you can have 2 weapons equipped at one time, and there is different ways to switch between the two. I think it kind of has a cooldown, and then there is some other gameplay elements they've shown in the past that will tie into actually switching between your different weapons. Next, layer 2 is trinkets. There are 3 types of trinkets: amulets, rings, and charms. Like weapons, every trinket has a unique primary trait associated with it. Players can equip 2 rings, 1 amulet, and 1 charm in their loadout. So this is going to make a majority of the gear you're equipping is going to be these trinkets, and they all have their own primary traits. Having even one of these different will actually change up your playstyle pretty significantly from the sound of how they're actually going about this. Layer 3 is Lifestone. Similar to other pieces of loot, the Lifestone will have a primary and secondary traits. However, this particular piece is unique in the sense that it also serves as the player's self-heal. There are really neat loot triggers tied to Lifestones that make self-preservation a balancing act in Godfall. Players can equip 1 Lifestone in their loadout. Lifestones have a set amount of charges, and charges can be restored through combat. These are pretty much just a heal that also are an actual gear piece. So they heal, they have different effects, and then they have their own primary and secondary traits. Layer 4 is Battle Banner. Battle Banners are another charge-based piece of loot similar to the Lifestone. When placed, these banners can either provide buffs to yourself and nearby allies or debuffs to nearby enemies. Battle Banners are one of the most powerful co-op tools a player will have. That said, they will still pack a powerful punch in solo play. Another charge-based item, I'm not sure if these are like a set amount of charges like the Lifestone, you have to kill enemies or get drops to refresh them, or if these will more specifically be a cooldown. These are pretty much just big banners you throw down that can either buff or debuff enemies. Essentially another piece of gear. Layer 5, Augment Constellation. An Augment Constellation is essentially an empty skill grid that a player fills in themselves. They can fill in the constellation with augments, which are unique pieces of loot that provide incredibly powerful benefits. And these aren't talking about the actual Valor plates. I'm not certain how the different Valor plates will play into this, because different Valor plates have their own signature abilities and stuff like that, but these seem to be the vast majority of the customization. And they also went a little more in depth with the augments for the Augment Constellations. Each Valor plate has a unique Augment Constellation. Augment Constellations are made up of 10 nodes. Nodes will either be red, green, blue, or white. And red augments will increase a player's might. Green augments will increase a player's vitality. Blue augments will increase a player's spirit. And any color augment can be plunged into white nodes. What I'm assuming is might is just damage, vitality is probably health, defenses, and spirit is most likely maybe health regen or possibly like cooldown refreshing, because you do have some stuff that could kind of be like abilities, but not exactly certain because I don't think they've specifically said what these stats do, but that's more than likely similar to what they are. And white nodes seem to be, you can put anything in them, so those are probably the overall best nodes because you can just choose exactly what you put in them. Augments will also have a power drain value associated with them, and your Valor plate will have a power capacity. The more powerful augments will have a higher power drain. Players will be challenged to carefully deliberate where to best invest their Valor plate's power. As you level up, your Valor plate's power capacity will increase. The higher augments will have higher power drain, and your Valor plates have a set amount of power in them. So if you have, say, all the best powerful augments, you might not be able to put all of them in at the same time, because then you will just have no power left. And I'm assuming that there will probably even be builds that just use a smaller amount of super powerful augments and just don't put in augments for the other slots. Then we are going into the end game. This is what I was super excited about and what made me want to make this video and made me just overall much more excited for the game in general. Our aim is to create engaging endgame loops that will continue to challenge and reward players. The battle isn't over once you defeat Macros, which I'm assuming is the endgame boss or the last boss of the main campaign. One example of this is Tower of Trials. Tower of Trials, TOT, is a roguelike endgame challenge mode accessed within the monolith. It can be played co-op or solo. As players complete the combat trials and progress up the elevators in the center of the monolith, the enemies will get stronger. Luckily, the players can earn boons and item rewards on their way up. Explaining in further detail, players first complete the elevator encounter trial by defeating waves of enemies to be rewarded with keys, a currency specific to TOT, and will get reset to 0 when the player exits. Players that then choose the type of reward they'd like to earn next by picking a doorway with the corresponding rewards type icon on it. There are several types of reward types that the player can earn, but only if they walk through the doorway and defeat the room encounter trial. The room encounter trial will offer a different type of gameplay, with Hein promising it doesn't have a time limit and has an area space which is larger than that of the elevator encounter space. Defeating all the enemies will spawn the reward type noted on the doorway. Many times a chest that requires a certain number of keys to open can spawn as well, adding that players are allowed to progress back to the elevator once they've defeated the room encounter trial. This will allow players to interact with the center console to go up a floor and trigger the next trial. And they also talked about, or I guess teased, that they're also going to be talking about sometime soon another endgame mode called Dreamstones. So that should be coming soon, and I'll probably make a video about that. But essentially, this is a roguelike tower. If you don't know what roguelikes are, they're essentially games where you start at pretty much nothing. Usually they will have some permanent progression that you do out of the actual runs, but you start a run, you pretty much start at nothing, and every time you do an encounter or fight something, you'll then get extra power or you get currency that then you can go to different vendors at different points, get other power, and just progress, and it gets harder and harder as you go. But then you also get more buffs the further you go. It just becomes a really cool combat loop of you getting stronger, the enemies getting stronger, you having more tools to deal with them, and stuff like that. And it's essentially endless progression because you can constantly do runs and do more and more runs that are always going to be somewhat unique, getting different buffs to try out and getting different rewards. Roguelike games in themselves usually have a very high amount of time played for the people who like playing them. I really like these type of games, so it's definitely going to be something that's very interesting and I'm super excited for. And essentially, it also has the rooms that a lot of roguelike games have. You would essentially, like, say you'd fight an encounter, and then after that, you would choose a direction to go, and these rooms would all have different encounters in them and give you different rewards. Even the newest game that's like a massive hit now, Hades, has pretty much this exact thing. You do a different fight, then you choose what room to go into next to do a fight and get a specific reward from them. That's super exciting. I'm assuming this is also just going to give you actual rewards for your builds, give you XP, give you all the normal rewards you would get from playing the game, and just be this super replayable roguelike endgame tower, which is something super exciting. So that's pretty much all I want to go over. Super excited for this. This definitely is something I was looking forward to, learning about the end game of this build. Subscribe if you want to see more videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this end game roguelike tower, and thanks for watching.